Hi, my name is Dr. Faria Bukhari, Dr. Fab, and I just heard in the State of the Union address, Biden has said that he's going to build a port on Gaza to deliver aid, since from the airdrops, we just found that a few Palestinians got crushed. I think let's take a deep breath and figure out why, out of the blue, Biden has decided to build a port on Gaza. It is not to deliver aid to Gaza. It is to undo the effect of the damage to the shipments going on across the Red Sea as a result and consequence of the blockade by the Houthis. That's it. They are not going to deliver aid. They're going to deliver breadcrumbs. And in lieu of these breadcrumbs, they're going to deliver weapons of mass destruction to Israelis to continue to wage a genocide against the people of Gaza. There's a reason that they're vetoing every attempt for a ceasefire. And that reason is because the plan to carpet bomb Gaza did not happen after 7th of October. That plan was made before 7th of October by Biden administration, by Rishi Sunak, by Olaf Scholz, by Melanie, by Macron, by Trudeau, by Albanese, by Ursula. So my question to everybody is, how stupid are we going to stay? I mean, I'm just asking everybody who's trying to fight for the rights of the Palestinian people. How stupid are we going to stay? The first thing we have to tell ourselves and acknowledge, publicly acknowledge, that Biden is and has been committing the genocide. And before that, we have to acknowledge that a genocide is being committed. Completely, absolutely, 100%, with no element of doubt. This has to be done in every parliament of every country that stands by the people of Palestine. Whether it's a Western country, or it's an Asian country, or it's an African country. We have to do it now. We have to globally acknowledge that a genocide is being committed. So whether it is a South American country, whether it is an African nation, whether it is an Eastern European country, or an Asian country, we all have to stand today in our parliaments and globally acknowledge in our own capacity the presence of a genocide happening in Gaza. The second step we have to take globally within our parliaments, wherever we are, we're fighting for the rights of the Palestinian people, is to acknowledge the malicious role of Joe Biden in orchestrating this genocide by funding, by arming the Israeli soldiers, by sending boots on the ground. Aaron Bushnell sacrificed his life as a whistleblower. It was not just an extreme act of protest against the Biden administration. It was also to expose to the world how Biden is complicit 100% in pursuing this genocide, using American taxpayer dollars to fund and arm Israel as a proxy war machine against the people of Gaza. He told his friends before he committed this act of extreme protest that American soldiers are on the ground in the tunnels fighting not for Palestinians, not to give them aid, not to do the right thing, but they're there to support IDF. And we all know what IDF is doing. IDF is committing a genocide. So once we have done that globally, in every parliament of the world, wherever we are, however we feel about Palestinians, despite all opposition, despite all lobbying, despite all IPACs, that is the first step. If United Nations Security Council has been immobilized, paralyzed, and made dysfunctional by the veto power of United States that is directly complicit in the ongoing genocide in Gaza, then we, the people of this world, globally, wherever we are, in whatever capacity we have, wherever we hold our parliaments, in whatever countries, whether it's Pakistan, whether it's Yemen, whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's China, whether it's Russia, whether it's Korea, whether it's Japan, whether it's a South American country, whether it's an African country, whether it's an Eastern European country, whether it's Spain, whether it's Ireland, whether it's Scotland, we have to process a resolution that acknowledges that, yes, a genocide is being committed right now as I speak these words and has been going on for the last 5+ months. That is the first step. Acknowledge officially, under the banner of whatever countries you live in, at a parliamentarian level, that a genocide is being committed. And when this starts happening in about 195 countries, out of which about 2/3 have US military forces, or in some form or another, like a US military base is present in a lot of these countries of the world, it will be a wake-up call. Yes, they can veto the United Nations Security Council resolution, but the countries that are hosting their military bases, when their parliaments issue a law, process a resolution, issue a law that condemns the orchestration of a genocide against the people of Gaza, and also condemns the facilitation of this genocide by Joe Biden, Rishi Sunak, Macron, Emmanuel, Melanie, Ursula, and Albanese and Trudeau, this is going to shake them up. They may be able to veto our resolutions in the United Nations Security Council, but they cannot veto our power within our homelands, which in 2/3 part of the world are hosting their military bases. And they cannot be hosted once this is publicly acknowledged by the parliaments of various countries that the United States is directly orchestrating and continuing with a genocide against people of Gaza, against Palestinians. And we have seen how the ICJ ruling has made no difference, no deterrence in the lives of people of Gaza. And the main reason is that they do know that they have the veto power in the United Nations Security Council. And they can undo anything we try to do within the United Nations. But the question is, do we need the United Nations? to do the right thing, to be heard. They are worried about the blockade that the Yemeni Houthis are imposing on the Red Sea, to the point that they first, in a planned strategy, invoked an aid blockade. Don't tell me this was a Netanyahu idea. This was not just a Netanyahu idea. Netanyahu is just their poster boy. Netanyahu is just their proxy war machine, their weapon of mass destruction. The main masterminds are sitting in Washington, D.C. They're sitting in London. They are sitting in European Union Parliament. They're sitting in Canadian Parliament. They're sitting in the Australian Parliament. So don't tell me that the aid blockade of the people of Gaza came from Netanyahu. It did not come from Netanyahu. It came from his masters who are funding, facilitating, and arming this genocide against the will of the people of the countries they're ruling. So we, as the people of this world who are trying to fight for the lives of the Palestinian people, the first thing we need to do is, we are flooding the streets, but that is not enough. That is not enough. We need to stand in our parliaments, we need to process resolutions, and the biggest resolution that has to be processed within the next 24 to 48 hours is that we are not going to stand by a country that is actively complicit in the genocide of the people of Gaza. And this has to be done in the parliament of 196 countries. So as many as we can. So not just here and there, but it has to be one day Pakistan, next day Malaysia, next day South Africa, next day Spain, next day Ireland, next day we can have it in a South American country. We can have it in Chile. We can have it in Brazil. One day we can have it in China, and one day we can have it in Korea. So we can have it in various parts of the world. We can have one day we can have it in Indonesia, but within like 20, if we can have it together on the same day, it will have a huge impact. Because they imposed the aid blockade on purpose. The plan was to undo the blockade of shipments that has been done by the Yemeni Houthis. Because the idea was to first do the aid blockade, to starve the people of Gaza, and then create that uproar amongst the masses, which happened as they predicted, who then rightfully asked for an airdrop, and the airdrop started, but it wasn't enough, and it caused more damage in the sense that Israel killed and massacred almost 100 people only on one day, and almost injured 1,000 Palestinians in one airdrop event. And then U.S. then decided to send these airdrops, but the idea was that they starve the people on purpose, they create that uproar, and then when the whole airdrop philosophy and the strategy fails to deliver to the people of Gaza, then U.S. justifies the formation of an official port off the shores of Gaza. The port decision was made before 7th October last year. That was the end goal. Who's going to control this port? Are the people of Gaza going to control this port? Is Mahmoud Abbas going to be allowed to control this port? Is Hamas leader going to be allowed to control this port? Who's going to control this port? not a Palestinian, not Mahmoud Abbas, not Hamas. It's going to be controlled by the same people who are right now continuously bombing the people of Palestine, for persecuting them, subjugating them, detaining them, massacring their children, and starving them, who are feeding their martyred bodies to the dogs and the cats. This is the same people who want to create that port for aid. No, they don't want to create it for aid to the people of Gaza. They created the aid blockade in order to form this port. Because once they have the port, their army will be strengthened, and they can deliver weapons of mass destruction faster. They can have more soldiers on the ground. So please kindly stop being stupid. I know you are feeling emotional and you're compassionate, yes. But don't get swayed by their promises. They don't want to give you a port for aid. They want to get a port so that they can make this war against unarmed children of Gaza. They can make this genocide more vicious, more ferocious, lethal, and destructive. The port is going to work not for the people of Gaza, it's going to work for the people who are bombing the people of Gaza. The one thing that we need to do is to globally acknowledge the fact that a genocide is being committed in every nook and corner of this world, not just on the streets, but within the parliaments of the countries we live in. And once it has been acknowledged in the form of a law that a genocide is being committed against the international charter, against the law of whichever country you're in, then you start naming the people who are involved in this genocide. Then you start naming the countries that are involved in this genocide. And then you start your fight. Then you start your diplomatic fight against those who are directly involved. And how does the diplomatic fight start? For the first one, whichever countries have military bases of the countries that are involved in the genocide happening in Gaza, they need to ask those military bases to be removed. Because once your country has processed a law that you're not going to support, you're not going to stand by a country that is involved actively in committing a genocide of millions of people in Gaza, then you're automatically obligated by your law to ask the military forces of that country to go and leave your country and your territory. And by law, you have to do that. And there is no way that US can continue to impose a draconian communism upon your country, wherever you are, whether you're rich or poor or just developed or developing or underdeveloped. Once you have processed the law, you have acknowledged that yes, US is committing very much a genocide against Gaza. And yes, you have a military base in your country of US, and you have American soldiers you're hosting. Then you have to stand up and say that we cannot allow you to stay in our country because your country and your government is committing a genocide. You're waiting for ICJ and ICC. You're waiting for the arrest warrants of Netanyahu to be processed by ICC. They took like 2 minutes to process arrest warrants of Putin for whatever is happening in Ukraine. But you're waiting and nothing is happening. ICC is not generating those arrest warrants for Netanyahu. But do you need ICC? Do you need ICC to process those arrest warrants? Wherever you are, whichever country you are in, you have laws, you have statutes. You can process, whichever country you're from, an arrest warrant of Netanyahu and his facilitators. You can do that in whichever country you are. You can put these people on the terrorist most wanted list of your country, whichever country you're from. And if you start doing it, one country after another, within 48 hours, like within 5 days, it should be the whole world, except for one country or 2-3 countries doing it. Boom. That is the shakeup you're going to give them. You don't need United Nations Security Council resolution anymore. That's when you're going to make a difference. So kindly stop relying on organizations that are paralyzed, made dysfunctional by the veto power of the people who are actually terrorizing and committing a genocide in Gaza. Kamala Harris, 6 weeks of ceasefire. What is 6 weeks of ceasefire? What is meant by 6 weeks of ceasefire? You are openly committing a genocide. You are funding Israel. You're arming Israel. You're weaponizing Israel. You have not backed by even 1% in your support for these massacres and these bombings and airstrikes and air blockades. You are responsible. You're complicit. What are you talking about? There is no laundry machine in the world that's going to whitewash your war crimes that you have committed against the people of Gaza. You are terrorists. And it is about time that every parliament of every country of the world processes a law in their parliament that condemns the Biden administration as a terrorist organization that has committed a genocide in Gaza against Palestinians. So generate arrest warrants of Netanyahu in all these countries, wherever you're from. Generate arrest warrants of his masters, Rishi Sunak, Olaf Scholz, Ursula. You need to deter these people. You cannot deter them by keep on listening to the vetoing powers in the United Nations Security Council. You have not been able to deter them. They are continuously bombing and massacring innocent children. They are starving them. They are feeding their martyred bodies to cats and dogs. Please do something that has an impact, that will change Gaza, that will help save Gaza, that will deter these terrorists, that will shake them up. And don't ever listen to their lollipops, because those lollipops, like the port on Gaza, that is not for the people of Gaza. That is actually going to work against the people of Gaza. Assalamu alaikum. Allah Hafiz. Stay safe and think about what I said. Talk to your local governments, talk to your national governments, process a resolution, condemn the genocide, acknowledge it, that yes, genocide is existing today. Number one, acknowledge that Gaza is going through a genocide, and then acknowledge the people, name them. I repeat, name these people, name the countries that they are heading, and then if there are military bases, sitting in various countries of the world, of any of these countries, confront them and tell them that we have a law that actually stops us from continuing to host you. No matter how much you veto in the United Nations Security Council, it doesn't matter anymore. When 2/3 of the world acknowledges that Gaza has a genocide happening right now, and Biden is doing it, Rishi Sunak is doing it, Ursula is doing it, Olaf Scholz is doing it, Macron Emmanuel is doing it, Albanese is doing it, Trudeau is doing it, Melanie is doing it, not just Netanyahu. You can generate your own arrest warrants against all these people. You don't need the International Criminal Court to do that. You can have your own Supreme Court in every country generate the arrest warrants of Biden, of Rishi Sunak, of Olaf Scholz, of Ursula, of Emmanuel Macron, of Albanese, of Trudeau. And that's going to shake them up. That's going to deter them. Assalamu alaikum. Allah Hafiz. Good night.